Have you ever felt that sickening twist in your gut when the room falls silent after you speak? That moment when your most brilliant insight crashes against the brick wall of mediocre minds? When eyes glaze over, shoulders shrug, and someone inevitably changes the subject, as if your intellectual fire was nothing but an uncomfortable draft they needed to escape? Why is it that the very people who most desperately need to hear your truth are the quickest to dismiss it as nonsense? What if I told you that being called stupid by stupid people is the surest sign of your intelligence? Welcome back, thinking souls. Today we're diving headfirst into the intellectual abyss with one of history's most brutally honest philosophers, Arthur Schopenhauer. To understand why mediocrity hates excellence, why the average despise the exceptional, and why, my friend, those idiots calling you stupid might be giving you the greatest compliment of all. But before we rip away the comfortable lies society feeds you daily, ask yourself this: how many times have you dimmed your light just to make others comfortable? How many brilliant thoughts have you swallowed because you feared the judgment of people who couldn't spell philosophy if their lives depended on it? Exactly. Too many times. And where has that gotten you? The stupidity paradox. Schopenhauer once wrote, "Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see." Think about that for a moment. Really let it sink in. When you operate on a frequency others can't access, they don't praise your vision, they question your sanity. When you see patterns they miss, connections they're blind to, they don't marvel at your insight. They label you as overthinking or weird or, yes, stupid. But here's the brutal reality Schopenhauer understood all too well. Average minds cannot comprehend exceptional ones. It's not just that they disagree with you, it's that they literally lack the cognitive equipment to understand what you're saying. Have you ever tried explaining a symphony to someone who's only ever heard noise? Have you tried describing color to someone who sees only in black and white? That's what it's like for a visionary trying to communicate with the masses. The gap isn't just in knowledge. It's in the fundamental way minds are wired. This is what I call the stupidity paradox. The more intellectually superior you are to someone, the more likely they are to perceive you as the stupid one. Why? Because your thoughts exist on a plane they cannot access. The mirror of incompetence. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Why do you care what these people think anyway? Schopenhauer would call this the great trap, seeking validation from the very minds incapable of appreciating your value. It's like a chess grandmaster begging for approval from someone who thinks checkers is too complicated. Here's what's really happening when someone calls you stupid. They're encountering ideas that challenge their limited worldview. Rather than expanding their mind, they reject what threatens their intellectual comfort. They project their own cognitive limitations onto you. They retreat to the safety of the herd, where mediocrity isn't just accepted, it's celebrated. Every opinion encounters opposition, because every opinion is an assault on someone else's ego, warned Schopenhauer. When you speak truth that others aren't ready to hear, you're not just sharing an idea. You're committing an act of violence against their self-image. And what does any organism do when attacked? It defends itself, even if that defense is as primitive as calling you stupid. The herd mentality. Look around you. Really look. What do you see? A society that rewards conformity, punishes original thought, and has turned intellectual laziness into a virtue. Schopenhauer saw this 2 centuries ago. He observed that most people are terrified of standing alone with their thoughts. They need constant validation, constant distraction, constant assurance that they're on the right path. And when someone like you comes along, someone who dares to think independently, to question accepted wisdom, to stand apart from the stampeding herd, you become threatening. Do you know what shepherds do to sheep that stray from the flock? They either bring them back or write them off as lost. That's what society does to independent thinkers. Being called stupid by these people isn't an insult. It's a badge of honor. It means you've escaped the intellectual prison they'll never even realize they're in. But let me be brutally honest with you. This realization doesn't make your path easier. Quite the opposite. The burden of vision. Schopenhauer wasn't just a cranky misanthrope, though he certainly was that too. He understood something profound about human nature. We are fundamentally irrational creatures pretending to be rational. The average person doesn't form beliefs based on careful analysis of evidence. They adopt whatever positions keep them safely within their social group, whatever protects their fragile ego, whatever requires the least mental effort. And you're different. That's why you're watching this video while others are mindlessly scrolling through dance videos and stupid memes. You've taken the red pill, my friend. You've chosen to see reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. And that vision comes with a heavy burden. Schopenhauer himself was ridiculed, ignored, and dismissed for most of his career. His masterwork, The World as Will and Representation, sat unsold in bookshops while inferior philosophical works flew off shelves. Was he stupid, or was he simply too far ahead of his time? Do you think Einstein was immediately hailed as a genius? Do you think Galileo was celebrated for challenging established beliefs? Do you think any true visionary has ever been embraced by their contemporaries? Of course not. The greater the mind, the greater the isolation. The intelligence hierarchy. Let me share something that might make you uncomfortable. Schopenhauer believed intelligence exists on a hierarchy. Some minds simply operate at higher levels than others. And those at lower levels not only fail to understand higher-level thinking, they actively resent it. Think about it this way. If I speak English and you speak only Chinese, we're going to have a communication problem. But neither of us is stupid. We're just operating with different language systems. Intelligence works the same way. When you're thinking on conceptual level 8 and trying to communicate with someone whose brain maxes out at level 4, they don't hear advanced ideas. They hear gibberish. And what's the natural human response to what we don't understand? Dismissal, ridicule, or hostility. The discovery of truth is prevented more effectively not by the false appearance things present and which mislead into error, not directly by weakness of the reasoning powers, but by preconceived opinion, by prejudice. That's Schopenhauer explaining why people will call you stupid rather than question their own limited understanding. The liberating truth. But here's where things get exciting. Once you understand this dynamic, you're free. Free from seeking validation from those who can never give it. Free from dumbing yourself down to be accepted. Free from the exhausting charade of pretending to be less than you are. Schopenhauer himself wrote, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free." Do you get it? Your supposed stupidity is your ticket to intellectual freedom. The moment you stop caring what the herd thinks of you is the moment your mind truly begins to expand. Think about it. Every revolutionary idea in history was initially dismissed as stupid, dangerous, or insane. Electricity, madness, flight, impossible. The internet, a fad. The people who changed the world weren't those who sought approval. They were those who remained steadfast in their vision despite being labeled as fools. The strategic response. So what do you do when called stupid by someone clearly your intellectual inferior? Schopenhauer would suggest several approaches. First, recognize it for what it is, a confession of incomprehension, not a valid assessment of your intelligence. Second, understand that arguing with such people is pointless. As Schopenhauer warned, controversy equalizes wise men and fools, and the fools know it. Third, Use their dismissal as fuel. Let it energize your resolve to prove your ideas through action rather than argument. And sometimes, just sometimes, the most powerful move is to agree with them. Yes, perhaps I am stupid. Time will tell. Watch how this simple acknowledgement disarms them completely. They're expecting defense, counterattack, emotional reaction. When you deny them this satisfaction, you retain all the power. After all, as Schopenhauer noted, the truth can wait, for it lives a long life. The inner circle. Let's be honest about something else. While most people will never understand you, there are others out there who will. Your intellectual equals, your conceptual companions. People who see what you see, who think how you think. Finding them is crucial. Schopenhauer might have been a loner, but even he recognized the profound value of intellectual companionship. He wrote extensively about the rarity and preciousness of finding minds that operate on the same frequency as yours. These are the people whose opinion of your intelligence actually matters. These are the critics worth listening to, the voices worth considering. And how do you find them? By being unapologetically yourself, by expressing your most authentic thoughts without dilution, by having the courage to be called stupid by those who will never understand you. Your brilliance is the beacon that will attract similar minds, but that beacon only works when you refuse to dim it. The paradoxical confidence. Here's the beautiful irony in all this. The more comfortable you become with being called stupid by the wrong people, the more your genuine intelligence will flourish. Think about it. How much mental energy do you waste worrying about the opinions of people who fundamentally cannot comprehend your thought process? How much sharper would your thinking be if you redirected that energy toward actual intellectual growth? Schopenhauer himself gained his greatest insights during periods when he completely disregarded public opinion and focused exclusively on pursuing truth. Your mind is a garden. Every time you allow someone else's limited thinking to influence yours, you're planting weeds instead of flowers. Every moment spent defending yourself against baseless accusations of stupidity is a moment not spent cultivating your unique intellectual gifts. What could you accomplish if you stopped explaining yourself to people incapable of understanding? The genius mindset. Let's talk about what really separates exceptional minds from average ones. It isn't just raw processing power. It's not just knowledge accumulation. It's something Schopenhauer identified long ago, the ability to see connections others miss. Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. Average minds think linearly. Exceptional minds think in constellations. They see patterns, connections, and possibilities that remain invisible to others. This is why they call you overthinking. This is why they call you weird. This is why they call you stupid. Your mind is making leaps theirs simply cannot follow. And instead of admitting their own limitations, they project those limitations onto you. It's actually quite amusing when you think about it. The final liberation. So here we are. The brutal truth laid bare. When someone calls you stupid, they're not describing your intelligence. They're confessing the limitations of their own. They're announcing to the world, this person's thinking exceeds my comprehension capabilities. And that, my intellectually superior friend, is the greatest compliment they could possibly give you. Schopenhauer lived most of his life in obscurity, ridiculed or ignored by his contemporaries. Today, he's recognized as one of the most brilliant and influential philosophers who ever lived. The question isn't whether you're stupid. The question is whether you have the courage to be called stupid now, so you can be recognized as brilliant later. So the next time someone calls you stupid, smile. Thank them, even. They've just handed you confirmation that you're operating on a level they can't access. And isn't that exactly where you want to be? If this video stirred something in you, something that's been dormant too long, hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone else who's been called stupid for being exceptional. Leave a comment with your own experience of being intellectually misunderstood. Remember, in a world of intellectual sheep, be the wolf they mistake for stupid until it's too late. Until next time, keep thinking thoughts they can't comprehend.